You're watching Talking Points, a focus on the political scene in Lubbock and across the South Plains.
And welcome back. Here's a look at some of the political headlines of the past week. Lubbock City Manager Jared Atkinson told the City Council this week that Lubbock will receive $14.1 million of federal money for coronavirus relief. The money has to be for businesses, medical workers, and anyone who's been affected by all this, not for local work projects that haven't yet been paid for. We've not heard how people and businesses can apply for that relief money yet, but the city will likely have something set up quickly for that. We will let you know. Former U.S. Representative Sam Johnson of Texas died this week at the age of 89. Now, if that name sounds familiar, he was a fighter pilot and prisoner of war at the infamous Hanoi Hilton in Vietnam. And it was through his support and funding efforts that Texas Tech was able to put together the Sam Johnson Vietnam Archive on campus here. Mr. Johnson represented the Dallas area in the Texas House in the late 80s and the U.S. House of Representatives until January of 2019. President Trump threatened to pull this summer's Republican National Convention out of North Carolina if that state's leaders can't guarantee more businesses will be open in August. So, Vice President Mike Pence said Texas was a host state under consideration as a replacement. And Governor Abbott said Texas would welcome that chance. And speaking of conventions, Texas Democrats announcing more of the speakers for their state online convention. Kind of a who's who, including Nancy Pelosi, Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, Beto O'Rourke, and presumptive presidential nominee Joe Biden. That virtual convention starts on Monday. The governor adding to his Phase 2 reopening orders this week, saying that pro sports fans will be able to attend events here in Texas at lower capacities, of course, and with other safety measures in place. Teams and organizers are now drafting fan safety plans to be reviewed. Some more things that are open once again now, thanks to additional revisions of Phase 2 orders by the governor. Well, shopping mall food courts, driver's education programs, water parks, and adult recreational sports programs, although there's no games or competitions for them until June 15th. The Texas State Teachers Association said recently Monday is too soon to open school buildings for summer school. They've been demanding that state and district leaders provide protective gear for them and enforce social distancing and sanitation rules. But the Texas Education Agency has already released its summer school safety guidelines, and many districts have decided to do this online anyway. Speaking of, our Wes Rappaport asked House Speaker Dennis Bonnen about upcoming education funding and safety measures in the middle of all these other problems. So let's start that for 5 more good minutes.
Education is the #1 priority of all people in the legislature today. We passed House Bill 2, historic legislation last session, and no one wants to see us move backwards from that significant movement. And so education continues to be the highest priority. We are wanting to make sure that we get our kids back into school safely. We want the students to be safe. We want the teachers to be safe. We need the parents to trust that it's a healthy environment. And the sooner we accomplish that, the better we will be for Texas across the board, because we don't need our kids falling behind. And quite frankly, on the funding side, education is the #1 priority, and we will make sure that education is funded in that way.
That's a huge commitment. It was a huge commitment this last session. The state is going to be on the hook for some more money to help some of these districts. How can you make that commitment with so much uncertainty in the climate right now?
Well, part of it is that Texas is in a very strong position comparative to other states. And we also are receiving support from the federal government. But at the end of the day, it's what every family is having to do today, and that is making priorities in their budget. And the priority in the Texas budget has been and always will be education. Our children deserve a good education and deserve the investment in them to be productive citizens in Texas. And so it's about prioritizing, and we are going to have to make some hard choices next session, but the priority will be education, #1, to stay as the #1 item in our budget in the state of Texas.
Some of the work that you're doing, and you know, you're talking about next session, and you know, someone else is going to be filling the shoes of Speaker next session. Have you thought about what's next for you and how the pandemic has altered that plan?
Well, truthfully, we're working really hard every day trying to support Texans and work with the governor and get Texans back to work. And I am looking forward to not being in public life. But at this time, I don't have any plans as to what January 2021 I'll get to do differently, other than I will gladly pass the baton to someone else who will have the joys of being the Speaker of the Texas House and serving the public. I've done it for 24 years. It's been an amazing ride in my life, but 24 years is plenty of time for one person, and it's time for others to have that chance.
Do you think that we can get to some kind of normal anytime soon, or are we looking months and years down the line before we can get back to how as close to how things were before?
I think we're going to be living in a new normal of living and working around COVID-19 for the next couple of months. I don't think it's years, but I'm not an expert. The experts we hear from don't say it's years, they say it's months. And the reality of it is we've got to learn to do this, because we will have more people die from economic despair. We will have more families harmed by domestic violence if we don't learn and continue to work around COVID-19. People can be healthy and safe out in the workforce, out in the economy, and we can save lives from suicides, drug overdoses, and domestic violence that is created by spikes in unemployment and created by economic despair. We can do this. We've proven we can do it. We are doing it. And I don't understand why anybody would not want to see that balance struck, because the truth of it is, it's deciding, not to be overly harsh here, Wes, it's deciding how you find it appropriate for one Texan to choose to die sooner than they should. And I'm not comfortable letting that happen. We're going to do our best to follow the medical experts to strike that balance so that no more Texans have to die, and we can keep them healthy from the virus and keep them healthy from the economic despair. And every Texan should want to be a part of figuring that out and making it work.
We have heard that at least one trooper at the Capitol has tested positive for COVID-19. Have you come into contact with that individual over the last couple of days, and have you been tested recently?
No, I've not been tested, but I've had zero contact with that trooper. That trooper was isolated in one facility, not in the Capitol building. And DPS is doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Everyone that came in contact with that trooper is in isolation now, and home isolation. And we are not aware of that becoming a spread issue at this time. Obviously, we'll continue to monitor that. And of course, we hope that trooper is healthy and safe and recovers completely as soon as possible.
I think that also brings up a larger conversation about law enforcement officers and you know, the risks that they take in order to protect our communities. There is an additional risk that comes into being in contact with more people. I know that some of the law enforcement labor groups and organizing groups have called on COVID-19 to be added officially as a line of duty illness, a presumptive illness. Do you think that the state should, or that the governor should, include COVID-19 as a presumptive illness for law enforcement officers?
I'm not certain it's a choice up to the governor, but I do believe that that should be something that should be considered in line of duty. I mean, the reality of it is these officers around the state who have unfortunately contracted COVID-19, largely it is due to their duties in protecting our communities. And it's no different than the other things that we protect them from in their line of duty. So I do think that we should be protecting law enforcement and providing that benefit to them, especially considering the unique times that we're in and the efforts they're making.